This episode of the Turf District podcast is brought to you by the Edmonton Community Foundation. The foundation acts as a bridge between donors and charities to create a strong, vibrant community for generations to come. You can start an endowment fund yourself or with a group. Once it reaches $10,000, it can start distributing funds. Learn more at ecfoundation.org. Enjoy the show.
Hey, fellas, we ain't gonna ever back down from nobody. I don't care who it is. This is a brotherhood. And if we stand strong together, we can't be denied. If one of us goes down, we have another, and another, and another that's ready to fight. So let's hit this field and bang them, bang them, bang them. Somebody light me up.
It's time to huddle up. It's the Turf District podcast. Welcome back to the Turf District. We are back and we are talking all things Edmonton Elks and the CFL. Of course, we are a part of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported, and we are also a part of the Canadian Football Podcast Network. Check out all the shows at cfpn.ca. I am Andrew, and look at this. Wow, we're doing a redux of the 200th episode, I guess, because I forgot to take the logos off, but we are back. We have a special episode tonight because we have a little bit of news to talk about and some things to actually get excited about. And, we've been waiting for things to be excited about, and now is the time to start chatting about those things. So we have the whole gang here tonight, plus, of course, an amazing guest to talk about everything that's going on. First, of course, sitting in his antler corner, it is the one and only super fan Mike. And where is it? There it is. There it is.
It's the new jazz hands for a new era.
It's so fantastic. Yeah. It's so fantastic, as it should be. That was great. How you doing, super fan?
Good. It's been a pretty exciting day. My phone was down to about 5% by 2 o'clock.
You don't say.
Yeah, it was blowing up big time. So, I've already been online and picked out a few new items to get for the house, and specifically for me.
That's right. That's how it should be.
We have a jar in there for money for each of us to get some new clothes and new gear and things like that. So I figured, what better time than now? So. Hopefully it gets shipped out to me soon enough, and maybe by the next podcast I'll be wearing some of the new gear.
I know. I'm so super excited about that as well.
Till then, I've just got
exactly. So fancy. Love it.
It is. Gotta print it. Okay.
Nice. Also here tonight is the one and only Commissioner Kayla. How are you, Commish?
I'm good. Late to the party as always, because I didn't know about the name till most of the halfway through the day, if not all the way through the day. Wow. I had to go on social media and catch up and all the Edmonton Elks stuff now. So I was behind.
Oh yeah, but we knew you'd get there. That's exciting. And I'm glad that you were able to just be like, hey, I can jump in and chat with you guys too. So that is awesome. So, excellent. And then, of course, joining us in our guest spot this evening, one of our favorites. It is Mr. Dave Jameson. There he is. How are you doing, Jaimo?
It's great to see you guys. I thought it was going to be Elk District, but I'm glad you hung on to turf, and maybe you're going to get there. I don't know, but it's great to be back, and it feels like football's close now with today's announcement.
I agree with you, and I think that's one of the things that was really big for today was as that came across, you realize we're getting close. Obviously, if the announcement is coming, we're almost there, and that makes me so excited.
Yeah. It was a shot of energy. I think not just people here in Edmonton and fans of the Elks, but I think CFL fans. Yeah. This is big news. This was dominant newscasts and sportscasts and on tsn.ca. This is a big story, and when an iconic franchise decides that they're going to, shed old skin, keep the colors, but shed old skin and become something different, that's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's get us all together here in one. There we are. This is lovely. As you can see, the regular turf district is a little bare as we get ready. It's going to be... over the next month, will be a few changes, and I'm looking forward to having a brand new turf district in a mere 50 days, but who's counting? And it should be very exciting to have more space and decorate and have more. And we'll almost be at the point where we can do this together, which will be exciting as well. So that's we're headed in the right direction. That's exciting. Now we have. As we said, the fancy new name happened today. I think, I don't know about you guys, but I was a bit taken aback when I got the text message at 8:30 saying, "So who picked June 1st?" And I'm like, why? Oh, wait, I think I know what that's about. Yeah. But I think that kind of caught us a little bit. I mean, for me, it was 2 weeks too early, as we all know, but still, it was exciting that had came up. Let's go around the horn here, starting with you, Jaimo. What's your
round the horn?
Well,
around the horns,
around the antler. Should I have said that instead? Would that have been
exactly.
okay? I'm working on all of my product placement. Come on, it's still new. It's like it's not even 24 hours old. Jaimo, what's your first reaction to the name announcement and the logos and all those types of things?
Well, first things first. Let me acknowledge, and I think a lot of people have, that this was a really, really difficult process for all of the parties involved, both the club itself, the 2-year northern outreach and engagement that probably went longer than that. And to arrive at this point was difficult. So on that level, I think that needs to be noted. Yeah. I was obviously very pleased that they were going to keep green and gold. They are my favorite colors. In fact, I worked there 14 years. I have an affinity, but my favorite baseball team is the Oakland Athletics, and my favorite hockey team was the California Golden Seals. And I like the Packers a lot. They all share this color scheme. So, okay, you got the colors right. I had Elks, and I don't want to be that guy that says, "Oh, I knew this was coming." I didn't. I liked Golden Eagles. Mm-hmm. I thought that could have worked, or even Eagles. And for those who say, but they're in Philadelphia, I would argue there are more Eagles you will see in Alberta than you would in the city of Philadelphia. I'm just guessing. I've never been there. Yeah.
True.
But I think Elk or Elks, it will be fine. I mean, the thing we have to remind ourselves is, when a team launches, let's say, the Seattle Kraken, when you first heard it, now they're not on the ice yet, didn't land easily. Like you went Kraken, but I like why I need Maple Leafs or Oilers. It was just a little different. Golden Knights, it was sort of, okay, all right, we'll get, and now you just need to give it time to kind of marinate, and we'll get to a point where the name it's just part of the conversation. And I was really interested. I think the logo's good. It wasn't what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting the cartoonish, the polar bear from '96. Michael know this when they launched with that. But I thought it would be something a little more Milwaukee Bucks-like, just in the look, like it would be that, kind of forward-facing. But it's fine. Like I was thinking, well, how's it going to look on? My thing is, how does it look in the helmet on the field? And what will it look like on camera? What's it look like big on the scoreboard? Can you put it on the field and have it kind of pop? And then what's it like on merch? And not just, no disrespect to T-shirts, because we've all got them, but what's it going to look like in different pieces of merch? Like, can it live elsewhere and live? And when you look at it, and that takes time, you look at it and you go, I know what that is. Like, you don't have to explain the New York Yankee logo to many people on the planet. They go, I know that. Right? And this is a team with, I know 70, how many years, Mike could correct me, but let's just call it 100 if you want to go way back into the annals of time. Like, the franchise is really old. Yes. I mean, you think about it, like, imagine if the Habs, I didn't go with the Leafs because they're still smarting from the loss. Imagine if the Habs changed their logo. Like, people would be like, whoa, hold on a minute.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what's happened here. Like, you've taken an iconic, successful franchise, changed its name and its brand. That ain't easy. So all I would say is give it time. And if they're green and gold, and they are, I think you're going to be pretty comfortable when you're sitting in your seats at Commonwealth having a cold beer on a hot night.
Oh, which we all can't wait for. We need that part. Where's the cold beer in Commonwealth? I like this idea. As Mike grabs his beer. Perfect timing. That's fantastic. Yeah. Superfan, your first reaction. I mean, I know you and I have talked many times that we were kind of expecting it to be Elks or along those lines, or Elk. And we've talked about that many times on the show. But when it became real, how'd you feel?
I felt great. I've been on Team Elks for about 5 years now. Ever since you started getting some of those rumblings about the name possibly changing, that were getting louder. We heard about it every year, every time we went to the playoffs, oddly enough, by the opposing team's newspaper, saying that we should change the name. But to me, I don't really care what a bunch of people that aren't affected by this are saying, nearly as much as I would care about the people directly affected. And when you started hearing a lot more of their voices getting louder, especially on social media, because it did affect the younger generations a lot more, I think, that were against the old name, I started thinking, okay, well, this is going to happen at some point. And being the fan of history that I am, Elks just seem to fit. I mean, we've had about 5 different names over the years. Like Jaimo talked about a 100-year-old franchise. I mean, we're going back to 1908. And at that point, that's when the name first came in. But since then, we changed names every couple of years until it went back and stuck from sort of the mid-30s on, or mid-20s on. But yeah, I liked Elks for a lot of reasons. One, because of the history. But 2, it's one letter removed from Esks. So you just changed the first S to an L. You're there right now. So Go Elks Go is a really natural call for most people, I think. And I just thought there was a lot of great things they could do with the branding. Having those, people talk about the foam antlers, as kind of goofy as they are. Kids love those things. Having an Elks call in the stadium is going to be crazy. So I just thought you could do the most with it. Versus some of the other team names. I don't know what we would do with Evergolds, right? So let's all make the fern noise. It's just, I think it's the best choice they could have made. I like how they did the launch day. I thought it was outstanding. If anyone hasn't seen it, go back and take a look at that on Elks, a Twitter account or a Facebook account or whatever, and watch that thing from beginning to end. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, the video was outstanding. And it really made an impact. I was interesting because they had Kinger in it, and I thought, wow, that's kind of cool actually, because
and he was passing the torch.
Exactly,
passing the ball from himself. That was amazing.
Such a nice tribute, I thought, to him, and it's the old and the new in coming in with Kwaku. So I loved everything. Well, granted, I understand that I'm biased. Whenever they put out a video, I'm like, ooh. I should maybe go, ooh. Yeah. But still, it's, I was excited about it. So, Kayla, you spent most of the day not knowing and then found out later in the day. But on your way home, did you stop right by and pick up your new Elk call so that you'd have that ready for games, or?
Yes, on the way from my bedroom door to my desk.
Right,
it was,
that's what I mean.
That's what on my way home.
Well, doesn't your dad have one? It's like perfect. You can just pick it up right there. Yeah,
he does, yeah, somewhere. He probably has like 50.
See, you're well prepared. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Seriously, honest. You should see our garage. I could hook you all up with some antlers, to be sure.
That's good, because that's if I had one comment on I don't want to be negative today, but just I had one comment that's a little bit like, why in the store was there not antlers available? Like, that should be the first thing, like a hat with antlers on. Come on. Anyway, it's coming, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the real ones are probably going to be like outlawed because they are actual weapons.
Fair.
So I might have to rethink that.
It's a good point. Yeah.
But that organization, I must say, like, their advertising is exceptional. Those videos, like, year after year they keep getting better, and like the goosebumps always come, and it's just like, oh, I wish I could be a part of their film production, because I would just be like, woo! Like, actually I'd probably be pretty relevant just standing there and like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But I mean, I'm kind of on the same boat as you guys. I expected this name. And I like how they actually sourced the U of A linguistics department and the Oxford Dictionary on the word elks over elks. I appreciate that as an academic myself, so well done to the organization. As far as like the logo, I'm kind of in agreement with Jaimo about the cartoonish look. I wish the antlers were a bit more intricate and like wrapping around the helmet. I think that would look just bomb. Like, there's still time.
See, I like the logo because if you look at the antlers, it's the letter E.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's some really good design in there, and I mean, you know, you guys are too young, but I will say this: like when you saw the Milwaukee Brewers' famous glove logo, which is, if you look at it and you don't know, it's an M and a B, but it looks like a baseball glove. Montreal Expos logo, when it first dropped, people went, what? Okay, can you explain it? And then you tell them what to look for within it. The Hartford Whalers logo is seen as some of the best sports logo design ever. And it's all about the negative space, right? And the stuff that you can't immediately pick up. But then when you have someone say, no, you see it? Where, look at this. Those things, but it takes time. All of this takes time. Like out of the box, and when I say takes time, I mean, who knows how it's going to age? I mean, we can't. Look, the Double E, I'm very proud of it. I have, I worked there for the time I was there. I wore that logo pretty much every day to work. I have 2 Grey Cup rings. I have helmets with the logo on it. But when you think about classic design, it was a pretty simple 2 interlocking E's. It's what those E's stood for.
Right. That
for me is as much as the thing, the actual visual thing. It's what did those stand for, and for the Edmonton football team, or now the Elks, it was success, on-field success. It was a very strong commitment to the community. It was community-owned. It was, you guys know what all of the sort of touch points are. And so for me, as much as the whatever, that we're going to fall in love with that elk logo, and it's what it means, and what does it mean to the fans.
Yeah.
See, I see that logo right now, and I think Cabela's.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I'm not saying it's not cool, but that's where my mind goes.
Exactly. I had someone message me today going, that looks like it's a, and not in a necessarily a bad way, but like a parts dealer, like for like a heavy machinery or something.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, God, I hadn't even thought of that. Like
a John Deere.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I don't know every logo out there by any stretch, but there are people that go, oh, hey, wait a minute. I mean, hey, we got PCL Construction in our city that basically that was the old, it looked very much like the EE logo, right? PCL, the green and gold. It's, there's enough sort of touch points and commonality there, but it just takes a while. And you look at teams that have gone back into their past to bring something forward that they thought, like, I'll just pull a name like the Milwaukee Brewers. That hat, the logo, they went, oh, that's so outdated. Let's get rid of it. And then they did, and then they went, oh, that was good.
Right.
So. Yeah, just let this sink in would be my advice. And at the end of the day, it's the city you're playing for. The name's important, don't get me wrong, but it's the city. Those colors are absolutely essential. They are as much of the DNA of that franchise as anything, in my estimation. And opposing fans will soon learn to love or learn to hate the Elks just like they hated the other name. Just being on the bench and hearing what people said about the team under the old name and at old Taylor Field and Ivor Wynn, they'll soon hate Edmonton. Doesn't matter what they're called. Right.
And soon enough, we'll all love the name when they're announcing us as Grey Cup champions, and that's the name of the team. Like that that's it's funny, right? Like that. I don't want to overplay it. But I mean, that's the thing. If you're winning, people like your team or like your name. All of a sudden, it doesn't become such a big deal, right? So we'll see how that plays out.
Sure.
So,
and even, Jaimo was talking about all the other teams that have come in, like the Golden Knights and the Kraken, but don't forget the Red Blacks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone said what a terrible name that was. And now it's, when you think Ottawa, you think Red Blacks. You don't think Rough Riders anymore.
No, and
Renegades.
You remember when they and they were going to bring out the helmet with the plaid, the wraparound plaid, and they weren't able to get it to field, but it was like, oh, this is too much. Well, now it's just part of the fabric.
Right.
Yeah, and we quite like it, so I think that's fair.
And I just want to add one other thing: the old name, Life Before the Elks. That really, but outside of the marketing and the branding and rebranding they did in Mike 96, have I got that right, or am I 97?
96 is the first year. Yep.
Okay, for the polar bear, you were really boxed in by the previous name. You were by boxed in, I mean, where could you take that name and that brand?
Right.
I mean, I was there when we used the igloo as the tunnel, like an actual, like an inflatable igloo to have the players run out. Okay, nobody seemed to bat an eye, and I shouldn't say no, but like there may have been complaints, I just wasn't aware of it, but that was part of the, okay, we have this name, and we've only got a couple of sort of touch points that we thought we could use. And so, but beyond that, where are you going to take that name in terms of merch, in terms of, you could shorten it to masks, and they did, of course, we know that. But okay, where do you go?
Right.
You can't sort of have it kind of cascade out from the name and have it live. And, maybe it's an area like in the Red Blacks were able to turn, they've branded with all of the stuff they've got around logging and the cutting of the wood chips and all of that stuff. They've made it live other places. With the old name, it just kind of sat there. Couldn't really animate the logo, couldn't bring it to life. It's too easy.
Well, and this really, I think you make a great point, Jaimo. They can go so much farther with this, and you even saw it today with the new hashtag, right? Elks Charge. Well, that's one way you can go. Now, there's a whole bunch of hashtags. They could have said join the gang of Elks. You could have been like, there's so many
Antler.
Yeah, we've seen that before. Out of the forest. Like there is so many ways you can do that.
You can sell drinks at the Rut. I mean, you know what I'm saying. Like, in Winnipeg, they've got the Rum Hut there in the end zone or wherever it is. And you can have the Rut Hut. And,
That's amazing.
Yeah, but you can go places with it. And I think Mike's point, you can have some fun. Now the logo can come to life and it can do things, and now you can animate, and then that opens up opportunities for you on social media, in stadium with the scoreboard. That I don't want to complain about the previous name because it seemed to suit them just fine at the time. But I think if they get creative, they can have some fun with this.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Kayla, you were talking about the logo. Just kind of segueing from that, because when I first saw the logo on the field, I was like, I'm not sure. But then I went to the merch store. And I don't know about you guys, but I was like, oh, I'm so in. I love, there was a couple of shirts that I'm like, ring it up. I'll take that because I've been waiting for new stuff to come and this is what's going to happen. And I have at least 2 new shirts on their way to me, hopefully tomorrow. And but there was a couple of them that I'm like, oh man, that is awesome. And they even have one where they have Edmonton Elks across here and then they've got the antler coming across the front of the chest. Right. And I told my wife that, I only got 2 and I think I deserve a gold star because it could have been at least 15, easily. You know what?
Father's Day is coming.
It could have been just put one of each in there. It could have been. I'd have been fine with that. But, yeah.
But, and, I'll say this about the field logo. I mean, that was on steroids.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was, you never have it that, it was so big. And it still had clarity and it was still very well rendered, but it was so big. If you, when you think about, God, I laugh at this because when Hugh Campbell was there, the only thing that was allowed on a field, he eventually sort of buckled under, the progress, was the lines of the field itself. Right. Okay, so there was no Edmonton and asks in the end zone. There was none of that. And we finally, and I might have even come after when Rick Lawlisher was in charge, we're like, hey, why don't we go crazy? What do you think we put our logo at center field? And it was like, oh, whoa, hold on. And you're like, everybody in football is doing it with the exception of us. Like we were the last in the CFL. Certainly, I can't speak for the NFL, but I mean that was the NFL has the shield and or whatever they do. But they were the holdouts. I mean, and some of it was grass, but then once you got into the field turf, you were like, no, we can do anything we want. It's just plastic. We can hose it down and add things, and you can put. And some people don't like it. I'm not a big fan of the European hockey jersey kind of approach to aesthetics when it comes to sports, but that was sort of like minimum standard. Let's get the double E at center field, and then they eventually did, and now you don't even notice it, right?
Yeah. Well, and they've gone a whole bunch of ways with that. I remember like the Ricky Ray day where they had the 15-yard line, marked out, like the Normie Kwong 95 NW logo that Mike, you and I have a picture by, and it's like so many things that have come to pass since then that I don't know about you guys, but I cannot, well, I already know that I'm going to tear up, but they're going to do something for Joey when the fans can be back in there, and they're going to do it on the field, and it's going to be unreal, right? So there's so many things that they can do with that it's exciting. And like I said, I just think at first I was like, wow, I'm not sure about that. But then once you see it on other stuff, like you said, does it go on all this merch? Does it jump out? And I think some of those things, it absolutely does. So did you think that more, Kayla, after you saw it on other things, or is it still kind of?
Oh, I don't dislike it.
No, I'm just checking. Yeah.
It's just that's where my head goes is Cabela's.
Yeah, okay.
But my dad's a hunter. This is going to take some getting used to because I see these things repetitively in my household every day. So it's not that I dislike it, but again, moving away from this as the primary, that's the toughest part because this means more to me. Just this logo in itself, not the name, not anything else. The colors and the logo in itself mean so much to me that having to part ways with that as the primary, it breaks my heart, not gonna lie. But it just takes time to recover from that kind of stuff anyway, and it's not that I was surprised or like dislike the new stuff. It's just letting go of the past is hard.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and I think they still have the option to use that EE more and more. If they find, they'll be doing focus groups. If they find that people like the new elk logo, but don't necessarily like it as much as the EE, they'll switch it around, and maybe this will be the primary again. So who knows? They have that option at least.
Yeah, so. There's lots of options to go from for sure. Kayla, is there any comments there on the YouTube area that we can, or any questions or things that we might want to answer or address?
No real questions. Mostly just like saying, the excitement of the logo. Tim even got an elk logo.
Nice. Awesome.
Yes.
Which, by the way, let's do a quick plug out for our friends at the Alouettes Flight Deck, because I don't know if you've seen 100%. Their merch as of late, but holy crap, there is some nice stuff. So they've done well as well.
Well, Montreal's a stylish place, right? They're going to make sure it's not just the basic. Yeah. Montreal rolls a little differently.
That's what they do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bill had something. Who's got the new words to the fight song? So do you think that they'll still keep the fight song in and just move the words? Or
I think they'll just add the word football at the end. Elks football, right? That's still 3 syllables.
Oh, and the Edmonton Elks football. Okay. Yeah, that's not bad, actually.
Something like that, right? It doesn't have to be that, but it's something where they can just put a 2-syllable word at the end of it, and it works.
Oh, I like that.
And apparently, a couple of the primary logo hats are already sold out.
Wow.
I can't say that surprises me. like I said, as I was going through the site, I was like, yeah, I'll take that one, and I'll take that one, and I'll take that one. But then it was, I realized, okay, well, the one thing they didn't have on there was a jersey that said
no, not yet. That's on
and
purpose.
I think that is on purpose,
No.
and I think you're going to see those as we get closer to training camp. And I got my pennies ready for that. So that's yeah.
I wonder. My interest in the uniform will be: do they go for a blend of classic, which they've done? I mean, I know that they've, with the green helmet and the large oversized double E's and those kind of things. So there have been some change. Or do you say, you know what, we're gonna stay with the colors, but we're gonna kind of blow this up a little bit? I'll be interested to see. And I know they dropped the key lines around the double E, and they've changed the primary mark, right? They've taken out the black and the white, the drop shadow. So are they going to go to a single color number? Just a straight up? Okay. I mean, that would, yeah. I'm curious where they're going to, and if it's, does that elk logo, does it live as a patch? Does it, is it season one as the elk? Like, how do you wrap that around?
Or even if they're going to have the elk or the double E on the sleeve, or are they just going to have the lines, right? Like, who knows?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I was there, we did a few things, but one, we had the white jersey with the green shoulders and made, the collar and played with it a bit. But the number kit stayed the same, and I'll just be interested to see which way they go. Yeah,
are they going to have ones that are all fuzzy now, like the elk? No, I'm kidding. That was just me being dumb.
Just give me shoulder numbers back. Just give me shoulder numbers. I'm big on the TV number.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of that as well.
The winter gear is going to be so much fun. Got some hides going on.
It'd be fantastic. Anything else on the comments there, Kayla?
Tyrell said the Elks roll off the tongue easier than the Esks.
Oh, well, actually, yeah, I know we've all said that before when we're doing Go Elks Go. Actually, that'd be a lot easier than instead of the loud number of as everyone tries to do the other name. So that would be great. Yeah, that's a good point. Excellent point. Brazilian tie with a big point. That's exciting.
Oh, that's who that is.
Wow. Oh,
it's Noma's tie.
Yeah, who's that? Yeah. All right. Well, it's good that he's on that. Well, that's fantastic. And I mean, I don't know about you guys. And I think, Jaimo, you said this at the beginning. I'm just excited because it's got to mean that we're close. It's got to mean that we're
100%.
We're getting there, right? And I am that to me that's the exciting part all in itself, is that we're one step closer to being in those stands and cheering on the Elks and being part of the gang, and that to me is what we've all been waiting for. So I'm super excited for that part. So that will be amazing. So we'll take a really quick break for an ad here, and then we will come right back with some more fun and games. This episode is also brought to you by ATB Cares. With ATB Cares, giving is easy. Donate through ATB Cares, and ATB will match 20% of every dollar donated to eligible Albertan charities, maximizing the impact of your donation. Visit atbcares.com to choose your cause and donate today. And we're back. Neat, right? So that's the fun part, is when we rip off this audio to put the podcast out, because I forgot to announce that off the start. This is how we are now doing the podcast. We will record it live on YouTube, and then we will put out the audio afterwards, so that you can watch it now, or you can listen to it later. There'll be lots of. All of a sudden, I feel like I'm Hans and Franz. Watch it now or listen to it later. Yeah, but we'll have some fun with that. Before we get into a couple of other little news items, Superfan, the team is not the only one that went through a name change today. And I believe you have some things that you need to tell us about.
Yeah, so obviously the history segment had to have a change since it was integrated with the old name of the team. So now we are going to be known as the Edmonton Football History, and that's history with double E's at the end.
Love it.
Will be the segment. So, I even did a little something with... if this is actually going to work, we'll see.
Oh, it did. Look at that.
Look at that.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to just go to you so that we can actually see this in nice big full screen. Oh, hang on. Hold, please. And I will remove the 200 logo so that's not causing an issue for you. There we go, Superfan. Go ahead.
Does that
look
work?
at yes, it's lovely. Oh,
so, I mean, this isn't the name itself, but I thought it did sort of fit.
It is.
Hopefully that works a little bit. So, yeah, I thought that it would be a good time to sort of talk about this is not the first time that the team has used this name. I've heard a lot of people talking about it, and everyone seems to have a different understanding of the history.
Of course, yes.
Of the team itself. So I thought I'd just go over a little brief bit as sort of the inaugural segment of the Edmonton football history. I'm going to have to work on how we're going to pronounce that, but you get the idea.
So can we go history? Can we do that every time?
No.
Oh, all right. Fair.
Yeah, that's a hard no.
Only if it's off. So one of the nice things is on October 16th in 1922, so coming on 99 years ago, the team did change its name to the Edmonton Elks. And the main reason is because their number one sponsor was the Elks Club. That's who kind of helped pay for their jerseys. They actually helped them get to the Grey Cup because they did go to the Grey Cup in 1921 and again in 1922. And that's back in the day when everyone had to go by train and there wasn't really an easy way for them to get there otherwise because it costs a lot of money when you're sending, at this point, maybe 30 people to the Grey Cup itself. So because the Elks Club was such a big sponsor, they decided to name themselves after that, and they changed their colors. So the colors were purple and white because that is the colors of the Elks Club.
Sure.
So we have been blue and white up until that point, for the majority of the time anyway. So yeah, that was sort of the impetus of that change. So there's a nice shot of the club itself. This was taken in October of 1922, so just before the name change. I've yet to find a picture of them wearing their new Elks jerseys, and even the newspapers at the time would sort of bounce back and forth between calling them the Elks and the Eskimos. So, like I said, this is the team that went to the Grey Cup. For those that sort of like the names there are the list of everyone that was on there. Fancy. Some of the names may be familiar to some of the history fans out there, like Mo Lieberman, Jimmy Enright, was one of the guys. Deacon White was the longtime coach. Doc Dunsworth. Jimmy Enright was the captain. He was injured for most of the season, so he didn't get to play. And Doc Dunsworth, their sons both played for the team in the late 40s, early 50s as well. So that was kind of cool. So they did actually win. There was only a 2-game season that year. In the regular season, we started off by beating the Saskatoon Quakers in the preseason. Wow. This is back when there was teams in every province, right? You had several teams in Winnipeg or Manitoba. You had several teams in Saskatchewan, and you had several teams in Alberta. So we would play against the Green and Gold in the University of Alberta, or we would play against the Calgary Tigers. But we did actually win out. The entire season, we went undefeated, and we went to the Grey Cup, and that's what the Grey Cup program looked that year. You'll notice that out east they're a little slow with getting the news, so they still went with the old name. But we did quite well. We had really great performances from 2 different players. We had George Scheinman, who was what they called a snapback back in the day, which is not what we'd call a center, but he was center on both offense and defense. So he would be sort of I guess you'd call it a middle guard later on. Mm-hmm. And then Jack Fraser was our halfback and also punter, and he scored the only point in the first half, so we led 1-0. At that point, the Queens coach was quite upset with his team, so he kind of chewed them out, and then they came back and scored 13 unanswered points, so we didn't do as well. But this is back in the day. This is only the second year that we played with a center. Wow. Up until that point, up until 1920, you played with what was called a scrimmage battery, which was 3 people. So one person would heel the ball back, and 2 people, their job was to hold him up. They were called props. and they would hold the center guy up, and he would kick the ball back to the quarterback or the halfback or whoever.
Wow.
So this is all very new, especially out west. So this, because we were playing with 12 men aside instead of the 14, we were allowed to compete in that 1921 Grey Cup, and then from that point on. So unfortunately,
that sounds like Dave Stevenson's offense.
Yeah, pretty much. Eh?
Nice.
Unfortunately, we did, of course, lose that game, and you'll see even in the Edmonton Journal, they still went back to that old name just because old habits did die hard. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but now we're back to the new Elks 99 years later.
Oh, see? Yeah, that logo's cool.
Yeah.
I think they can do a lot. I like the logo you got there, that too, though. That this day in history is awesome.
Yeah, Tyler has actually given me about 12 different possibilities for the Edmonton football history, and they're all amazing. So it's been hard for me to be like, well, I like this one more than that one. So I gave him just sort of, he said, just look at it, then don't look at it for a while, and then come back a day or two later and look at it again, and what does your eye draw to? So I picked about 3. He's going to mock those 3 up, and we'll have that announced probably in the next week or two.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's probably awesome. A complete surprise to him. But yeah.
Well, it's good to keep him on his toes. I mean, I think the main point of this is new name, same great stories, and that's the part that everyone is looking forward to anyway.
We consider that 1922 Grey Cup team a member of our history, and it was with a different name than the others. So if we consider that part of the history, then we have to consider the new one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you, Superfan. I love it. I love that it's back and that we have new and fun things to look at. That's always that's amazing. Now, before we go, we do have a couple of news items that we should probably talk about. Let's talk about the team extending Brian Walker, which I'm sure Superfan was very excited about.
Huge fan. Yeah, Walker was outstanding when he came in for Unamba, who was injured, and then he moved into the defensive halfback spot, and he can just sort of play all over that field, and he's a hitter, so it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited to have him back, and I'm hoping I can get him on the show before too long because he seems like a chatty guy. Also, Jonathan Rose, who's doing his own podcast, so he already knows podcasting, so you should have him here. That's what I'm thinking.
Yes.
Superfan just became a big S. Neat. Okay, so there you go. Now it's back. Yeah, okay. We had I'm like, wait a second. He says, what? He just turned into an S. S for Superfan. I get it, but still.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the draft did happen. Mike and or Jaimo, did you follow any of that as far as the draft is concerned?
I have to confess, I paid attention, obviously. The company I work for is kind of invested in the draft itself. So, I didn't, the draft was, I have to, again, I was spending a fair bit of time worrying about where Chuba Hubbard was going to end up down south. Right. And some of the other great Canadian players who were plying their trade down in the U.S., And the Canadian Football League draft is one of those things that, occasionally there'll be someone who, garners considerable attention with a high pick, first overall pick or whatever. But I always feel like the CFL draft is like an investment, that it may not be year 1 or 2, and we're talking O-lineman here. And so I kind of, I don't get it caught up. There's not a ton of hype around it, but, I also, when I worked there, understood the importance that of, when you have a high draft. I'm not talking Dimitri Sumpas here in the draft day trade. I'm talking about, that it's important because you could be getting a kind of a mainstay, a pillar for your team for a number of years. Well, and you look at guys like Kwaku Boateng, who, 5th round, but he's definitely one of the pillars of the team now, right? So that's Absolutely. A big deal. So I have the list just so that we can kind of quickly glance through them. So Edmonton picked 5 overall to start, and they surprised everyone by taking a gentleman named Cole Nelson, who was a defensive lineman out of the U of A. Now, I assume that would be because there was
a little more knowledge, being that he was close to home. But one of the things that I have seen overall is that he probably would have been available later in the draft too. Like maybe. Maybe. But the one thing that I will say, and I think we've learned this through even doing this pod, that Brock's been pretty good with drafting. So I'm not going to slag his pick at all. Yeah.
I'm sure he himself would say, and I know I've had him on my show where he goes, well, we don't want to win free agency. We want to win Grey Cups. And that's what you want to hear him say. But the record needs to show that when it comes to free agency and attracting players to Edmonton, he's done a hell of a good job. And I think in terms of drafting, you're going to get misses and you're going to get hits, but I think with the player coming out of the U of A, they know both the player and they know how he was coached and who coached him, and that's really important. What kind of a system are you coming from? And obviously the Chris Morris, and I know Tom Higgins is there, and there are no surprises coming out of the Golden Bears program, so I'm sure they felt a high level of comfort with that.
Yeah, I would have to think so. And I mean, they're just building that defensive line for down the road too. Like it's not, it's already going to be a strength on the team. You want to keep it as a strength. So have these guys that'll learn from those other guys, right? So I'm going to be very interested to see, actually, because he is, I believe he's middle. What did they say here? I'm just going to double check there.
It's defensive tackle.
Defensive tackle. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. And so when you have guys like Evan Machabrota that's coming back from 100%. Saskatchewan that is in that same position, or now they building depth by having Nelson that could be a guy that could step in as well, and they could rotate even. Like, I think there's definitely a building process there for picking it right when they did. In the second round, which is 14th overall, they pick up linebacker Grant McDonald, which he's a 6'3" linebacker. From what I've heard, though, is that this might be one of those guys that they look at for future down the road as a safety.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very quick guy. So that I mean, hey, we'll take that in. And he was another great program down in Calgary, right? So they've got some ability to know what's going to happen with guys like that. Third round, a running back Deontay Glover, who's coming out of Shepherd University, which I really don't know that much about, but a 2,000-yard season. so
pretty good. I mean, these are first from Shepherd.
Oh, that's 2 years. Sorry, that's 2 years. I'm sorry. Oh. Yeah, 2018 and 2019, 2,000 yards and 28 touchdowns on the ground.
Okay.
Wow,
that's a few.
So right there, you're looking at. And what I always love about football is you can be drafted at a position. That doesn't mean you're playing it.
Right.
It says on your business card, defensive end. Okay, sure. That was then. Now we need you to do this. And I always found that fascinating. A player gets drafted because of what they did. Let's, in this case, like a running back. And then you go, you know what? You're returning kicks. And you might carve out a nice place for yourself. And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole of talking about finding kick returners in Edmonton because we could be here a while. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you were running back and you worked in that system and you had some success. Okay, but now we need you to do this over here. And that's always an interesting thing with football.
Well, and this guy did have like 50 receptions for 500 yards in 35 games. So is that the guy that comes in that maybe steps into a slot back role or steps into a halfback role and is able to peel off to do those types of things, right? You never know. But like, you're right, you never know where they end up. Fourth round, wide receiver Dominic Johnson, and I'm assuming that again is just building some depth more at the Canadian receiver position, because we always have at least one, if not a couple, going on there, so that makes sense.
Plus, he's also got the connection with draft pick last year, Thomas Jack Kurdilas from Buffalo.
Oh, so that's right.
Went to same university, and for that matter, so did Natea J. So, we like Buffalo.
We do. Do you look at? Did you see Kayla's face just bream up?
I know,
That
just
was exciting.
right up there.
Yeah, because now it is like a video podcast, so people could see that happen. That's exciting. Yeah, it's amazing. 5th round, offensive. Now we finally pick our offensive lineman, which is kind of funny. Like when to go 5 rounds and then you're picking your O-line guy. Peter Cortis out of St. Mary's, 6'6" offensive lineman. Yeah, that sounds about right.
We've had some good luck with St. Mary. I mean, that's where Hector Pothier went. He was a pretty good offensive line.
He did all right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And we have a couple that are just kind of coming into their own on the line right now, right? You got David Beard, that's now been the longest serving Eskimo. Yeah. Elk. That on the team.
Okay.
We're going to slip it up.
Gold in more ways than one.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we've got him coming up. So I think that you start building for the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
6th round, and our last pick was defensive back Keenan Clark, and 5'11" defensive back. So he's again got a little bit of speed there with and looking at 15 total tackles as a DB. That's not bad. That probably means either they're not throwing a whole lot to you, or when it's coming your way, you're taking that guy down.
Yeah.
So not a bad draft overall. It's funny because usually I feel like I know some of the players a bit more, and this year it's just so disconnected because there really wasn't that combine and there wasn't that build up the same way. So it'll be interesting to see, because now we'll have basically 2 draft classes coming in and challenging. So training camp's going to be very interesting that way.
Plus the European or the global players.
Internationals, the globals,
Yeah, so we're going to, tons of players to choose from. Poor commissioner is going to be like, how many names do I have to remember again?
All of them?
Yeah.
Here come the nicknames. Okay, well, we'll work on that. Another thing that I got 2 other things I want to talk about. One is the annual general meeting went on that a couple of weeks ago, where people did think that they might announce the name there, but wasn't exactly the right place, especially when you're looking at the team posting or having to announce they post a $7 million loss. Not terribly surprising over the last year, and I think if you want to take a good news out of there, it sounds like they didn't really have to get too far or at all into that rainy day fund even with that loss. So pretty straightforward there. Now let's talk about the more exciting things and looking forward. Jaimo, do we start football on August 5th?
Yes. And I say that with more sort of force than I might have, but I did see the release coming out of the Saskatchewan Roughriders earlier today about their announcement about having fans back at Mosaic. And so it tells me that, we are inching, maybe more than inching now, towards a return of normalcy, whatever that's going to look like.
Right.
But yes, August 5th to me feels more doable. And I wasn't this bullish even a couple of weeks ago.
Sure.
And I think some of that is the residue of being as disappointed as I know you guys were, and your viewers and listeners, by how everything went down. And candidly, it felt like there were missteps made by Randy or the CFL. And it just felt kind of botched, but you know what? They weren't alone in terms of industries or governments, if I could be honest, that didn't exactly nail it. But put that aside now, it's just feeling a lot more like, okay, this can get done. What's it going to look like? I'm not knowledgeable enough on what the situations are in all of the various jurisdictions, but if things are going the way they are in our province, I would suspect you're going to either get, I don't know what the number will be, the threshold, but there will be people going through turnstiles at Commonwealth when they put the ball in the air. Now, does that mean it's capped at 10 or 12,000 or whatever? I don't know that. But and you can just see, even watching the NHL games, you saw small crowds, and then you saw them obviously get to where they are in the U.S. or most of the states where the games are being played, and even having 2,500 in Montreal for a game recently. Like, what that was like, you just can't replicate human noise. You can have all the electronic stuff, and you can all of that stuff, and it may be a small crowd, but God love them. They're making noise. And so, yeah, I'm feeling very good about seeing the CFL back where it should be, out on the field.
Awesome. Superfan, do you feel the same?
Yeah, I think with the announcement today as well from the government that we're going to see those second vaccinations happening, when you can start having numbers where we're going to be at, touch wood, 70% having at least the first vaccine probably in the next week or two.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to start seeing like some sort of herd immunity numbers possibly happening, right? They talked about you needed to be 70-80% of your population. And like they were jamming the lines. Like if you wanted to book just for people over the age of 68 or something, or 58 or 60, something like that, there were 44,000 people in the queue.
Yeah,
like it was insane how many people are looking. So they're looking at getting these vaccines, and if you can have 60% of your population vaccinated, that's all to fill Commonwealth Stadium.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they might have it so that because some of the other provinces aren't maybe near his head, we might be getting a lot of home games at the early stages of the August, September, and then we might be playing October, November, maybe more out east. So
you mean so we'll get all the nice hot games?
Yes.
And the cooler games will go somewhere else? I can't say I'm going to complain about that other than the fact that, chili in a bread bowl is much more fun when it's a little chilly outside, but still.
September maybe.
Okay,
Tacos in a bag. Tacos in a bag.
See, those are good anytime.
See?
So that's what we
There's
like.
my bright side.
Exactly. Kayla, how are you feeling about it? And how I actually want to ask you too, like, how are you feeling like because you're the youngest out of all of us and the timing as far as the vaccinations and all those things go, how are you feeling about do you think it'll be August 5th, and how do you feel about that?
I don't know. I'm probably the most pessimist out of all you, even though I'm the youngest. I don't want to say pessimist, maybe more real. I want to bask in the happiness of just today. And, I'm at the point where I'm not upset anymore. It is what it is, but I'll believe it when I see it. Like, obviously I want it to happen, but it just with everything that's gone in the past and whatever, and vaccinations or not, I'll believe it when I see it.
We'll see how the Calgary Stampede goes.
So is that going?
That's why these numbers are happening in the first place in Alberta.
Oh, see, they moved the expo, the Calgary Expo again. So it's just like, I'm never gonna get my nerd on.
Oh, you'll get it. Yeah, but you hang out with us nerds like every couple of weeks, so that's you got a little bit of. I mean, it's different nerd on. I get it, but still.
You have no idea. I'm watching Stargate Atlantis right now, and I'm just like, I have no one to talk to about this.
Oh my! Well, I think the main part of the whole thing is, and I know, and I want to thank. CBC Radio for having Mike and I on earlier today, and I did say at the time, the biggest part for me is now we don't have to hear you need to change the name, you need to change the name. We don't have to hear when is the name coming. It's now the name is out, we know what it is, and let's get back to talking football. Let's talk about the guys on the field. Let's talk about the games. Let's talk about getting together to watch a game. And we're getting to that point. And I must say, I think out of all of the emotion that I had today, that was the emotion that just came through to me. It was just we can move forward. There isn't this stumbling block that we always have to have some type of negative press. This is positive, and now we can just keep going in a positive manner.
There's one comment on here that needs to be read.
Yes, please.
By Unseen Stranger, God love you. The Elks will show the rest of the country what it means to have herd immunity.
Extra points. I don't even know who that is, but that is fantastic.
And do we have time for one more question?
Yes, of course, we do.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jaimo, first.
No. That beats Rut Hut. Herd immunity is of the moment. And it's funny. It's funnier than Rut Hut. Yeah.
I don't know, man. That Rut Hut, that just got me right.
Yeah, well,
just a bunch of plastered people doing shenanigans.
Yes,
That's all I see at the Red Hut,
Isn't
and
that
it's
what
hilarious.
CW's is, really, at the end of the day? Isn't that what CW's is? Yeah.
Yay for shenanigans. Okay, what was the other question then, Kayla?
So Bill posted a question, do we have some sort of unretirements now that the season looks possible?
Oh.
Unretirements, like you think people coming back?
Coming out? Yeah. Coming back.
I mean, we've already had one with our new star running back, so.
I to some degree, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
he was retired. He got unretired to sign with us, so.
That's true.
Yeah.
But like now
right.
that it's looking more possible for football.
I think you'll see guys take and some people had to leave the game because they had to get on with their lives and had opportunities right in front of them that they couldn't hold off any longer. But, there may be somebody who says, okay, I'm in a position where I can step away from this gig, whatever it may be, and continue to play the game that I love. And I don't think the numbers are going to be huge, but yeah, you may see a few people wander back. And, once teams, what can we almost, set our watches to? There will be injuries. And we all know the call goes out. I mean, you guys may remember Malcolm Frank left the game for 3 years.
Yep.
Was a teacher and then came back and was one of the best DBs in the league. Picked it up like riding a bike. And I think football has a pull, a lure. And someone may go, yeah, you need some help. Yeah, I can come back. I'm in shape. I'll jump in. Or somebody that goes, I'll get to that job. I can go back to it. I still think I've got some game.
Well, I'm looking forward to when Giz says, yeah, I'll do it again, because he still could. Holy crap. Good Lord, that guy. He could just...
There are still people that wonder why he can't return kicks still. And I go, well, what about Winston October and Donnie Ashley and all those people? They're like, not as good. I go, well,
Yeah, I don't know. Have you seen Giz lately? I wouldn't want to try and tackle him. I can tell you that. Oh, yeah. No. On a converse side to that, I'm curious to see when it gets closer to actual training camp, if we see some more guys that say, it's been a year and a half and I kind of don't know if my body's up for it again, or I don't know if I really want to get up for it again. As much as maybe we have a few guys walking back in, we may have a few guys that are like, you know what, I need to kind of move on too. Like, you're right, Jaimo, there is a lure there, but I wonder if we might see a little bit on both sides.
Oh, I think, over the time I was doing what I was used to do with the club, you go to training camp and a player who may, sort of near the end of their career, or a guy who was, again, maybe trying to catch on, maybe one last, I'm going to pull a name out of the hat, Keith Stokes, let's just use that one, comes to camp, or when Kahari Jones came to camp with the Eskimos, and you can just see how much work it takes to reignite both their skills and the drive to do it. And I'm not saying both those guys were great players in their time, but you get to a point where you go, this is a lot of work. I remember talking to a guy at the Ricky Ray night. So we gathered after and did some photos, and and drinks were had. And I remember one of the guys saying, who was still playing with the Eskimos, but he joined us for a couple of beverages, and he said, you know how hard it is to keep in this kind of shape? And he wasn't being, like, he just said, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard work to do this and go out and get hit a lot. You're being hit. That's your job. It's not always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the mental capacity that goes with that too, right? Especially over this year of not knowing, and you're trying to stay physically fit, but you don't know what the future. I mean, it's the same for the rest of us, but these guys have that double whammy on them.
I've had some guy over the years, people explain to me, football's a weird thing. It's really strange in this respect. Hockey players can get together, and they do. NHL players, the guys that go to Kelowna, they all live there. The guys that live down in Ontario, they can gather, Mitch Marner and Connor McDavid and a few other guys, and they're all, the best of the best, can gather at a rink on a Saturday afternoon and play hockey, actually play hockey.
Right.
Basketball players do that at gyms all over North America, and Raptors and Lakers, and they get together, and they're always playing. when do you play football?
Yeah.
Like Trevor Harris can get receivers from the junior college and he can throw to them, but that's not football. That's guys in shorts. You know, yeah, you can have some DBs cover and you can do some stuff, but talk about getting, I mean, you don't just sort of grab how many on a field. God, I should know that. But you know what I'm saying? Like offense, defense, let's go. I mean, it's hard. You can't, it's hard to replicate football. You're either playing it or you're not. And that's what we Yeah, exactly. You know, it stops, and then, like, it's not, you know, with the hockey guys, they sort of take a week or two and kind of, you know, decompress, and then they're back out training and back out playing hockey. The basketball guys, they leave the NBA season, and then they're playing internationally or wherever else, right? And then they got the Las Vegas Summer League, and then that gets going. So they're always in game mode, but football, it ends, everyone goes away, and their bodies are shredded, and they go, God, whew, you know, I need a break. And then they work out, they train, but then when does the hitting and all of the stuff that is, you know, essential to the game of football. It's not easy to start, stop, restart the clock. And so, you know, your point, I think, is well taken. Coming back after this long a layoff, how many people are going to go, you know what, I miss a lot of the game. I don't miss that part of it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and you know what actually kind of made me think about that, other than the fact that there's time and all those types of things. But I was joking with Mike because I went to Costco the other night and my cart was full. And the only person who had a cart bigger than mine was Matt O'Donnell, who was in the line next to me. But Matt O'Donnell right now looks more basketball player than offensive lineman.
Right.
And you're like, okay, like, There has been that year and a half, right? Not to say that he couldn't just get back in and do what he does, but it was one of those moments to me where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Like if you haven't been doing this the same all the time, then, you know, you're looking after your body because it's not really healthy to be 350 pounds or whatever it is. So, you know, you're looking after, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe it would be a lot harder just to pick up and do that again, right? So it's and that no slack on Matt at all, because the guy's a giant and an amazing offensive lineman, but it was just it was kind of an eye opener for me.
Sure.
Yeah, to think some of those guys. Was there any other questions on there, Kayla?
Let's just have a look-see. So, Tim says thoughts on how potentially having no preseason games will affect the teams.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what might happen. Well, and some of the players are saying there'll be more injuries because of that. But I guess that depends on what they do scrimmage-wise in training camp, because that's what the coaches are saying, is that they'll have more scrimmages, right?
Yeah, and those, you know, scrimmages are close. You can get you close in terms of replicating a game, but you know, out under the lights and doing it in an exhibition game. And look, nobody has ever said, God, you know, I'd like more exhibition football. Like, nobody in the world has ever said, except a coach, right? Except a coach.
I've said that if there's soccer on, I'd much rather watch preseason football. Like, but still, yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, the quality of the football, it's
sure. You
know, and by the time preseason games, there aren't that many jobs they need to decide, but it's an exercise and so on and so forth. But I would feel the same way. I would, and I think there may have been a story, you know, when the NFL, when they couldn't do the OTAs and they couldn't do all of that stuff, that was a real fear from players. Is like, hey, those first few weeks, and I think some teams really got battered up. Like, if I'm not mistaken, the Steelers took a lashing. Like, they just got, guys were going down, and, you know, it was ankles, knees, and everything else.
Yeah, and I think that happened a little bit without those preseason games. So that could play a role, absolutely, for sure. And so
another thing with preseason is there are some players that just when the lights are on, that's when they excel. Right. I mean, we forget that Mike Riley made the BC Lions originally because of a preseason game. Mm-hmm. He was cut. He was essentially cut, and then he played that game, and he did so well they couldn't cut him. Without preseason, we're going to lose some of those kind of players, and who knows how good they'll be.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a player less interested in the exercise of preseason football that I saw than Terry Vaughn.
Right.
Terry Vaughn, you know, on a good day, he loathed practice. He only liked football when the lights were on, someone sang an anthem, and then he could play.
Okay.
The other stuff and exhibition football, I mean, man, being there on the bench and being around them, I mean, it was like, woo, boy, just give us a little bit of care tonight, Terry. Just something to show us that, you want to be here. But that's not, he's like, no, I get paid the good stuff when the regular season starts.
Wow.
And you literally get paid at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Well, now you guys are just getting picky. I mean, seriously. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll see. I mean, we all want football, but if you're going to have a longer training camp with no preseason, I mean, you can only do so much hitting on guys that are on your own team.
True. Yeah,
right.
Without hurting them. Yeah, that's the other part.
Yeah,
don't hurt your own guys.
And in this day and age, there's no appetite, and nor should there be, for contact that isn't necessary. Right? I mean, the CFLPA and the NFLPA, for that matter, I mean, they've fought hard to say, no. We're not exposing our players to more repetitive contact, and certainly around the head. That's
fair. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, last question that I have, just because we are reaching our end time for sure. But so, is it Elkaholics, Elkamaniacs?
Oh, the Elkamaniacs! Come on now. What are you gonna do, brother?
What are you gonna do when the antlers come for you? That's right.
Oh,
it's exciting.
No.
See, did you like that?
Yeah.
There we go.
I hadn't thought of that one. An elk Camino in the parking lot.
Oh, that's
with
gonna happen.
antlers on the front. I don't know. I mean,
that's showing up to the tailgate. Come on. Absolutely.
That is. And I hope it does. Like with big antlers and the whole, do it and do it proudly and have some fun. I do have this. Does the fire truck, the little mini fire truck, return? Is it just rebranded? Does that still have a place?
Oh, the little tiny one.
I think it does.
Didn't have anything to do with the old name, so I don't see why.
That's right.
Didn't.
And it has, and it can have it can have the EE logo, and then you could put the elk on the front of it too, and it's still just the fire truck.
Because they've got Quick 6 or whatever it's called in Calgary.
Yes.
Do we put a live elk on the visitor side? Just have it running wild? I'm just saying. Just ideas.
I was at Iverwin. We were at Iverwin, and I was with the team, and they brought a tiger out of some of the school. Yeah, tiger, and it was like, the tiger was disinterested. It was hot. It was sort of, there was not like a big noise through the crowd. It was just like, why is this animal out on the field? Like, what are we doing? Why is this? Right? We get it. You're the Tiger Cats. You don't need to actually show us a tiger cat. We understand.
Yeah, the actual live elk that leads the team out onto the field.
Right.
When we score a touchdown, you let him out and he runs to the opposing bench. I'm just saying.
And he runs through the opposing bench with his antlers forward.
Sure.
That's okay.
They're not trainable animals, are they? Are they the ones from the animal kingdom that you just go, okay, just let them be. We
can make mini elks, can't we? Come on, they can genetically.
Sure.
That's great.
I'm just saying full size.
You're full size. Okay, yeah,
they got Quick 6. We got the Angry Elk.
Correct. Yeah. Wow. 2 and Out just became an Elks podcast somehow.
Right.
I'm not sure how that worked. But we're gonna have to do some trading for Fire Trucker and Angry Elk. I think we need the Angry Elk, or Big Red Trucker, as it might be, instead of I know Jedi's gonna kill me for that. Anyway, thank you, Jaimo, for coming to talk with us and be on the pod. It's always awesome, but I love the fact that you were there when we were doing the old PR, and now the new PR is coming out, and we're getting excited about it. So
it's great. It's great to see you guys, and frankly, coming on and joining you guys is another sign for me that we're getting close. And it's not, we've talked in the off season before and had, lots of good conversation, but this feels like, okay, the gang is back together again. And that's you guys. And it's all the people that watch and listen to this and take part in with the podcasts of all the teams across Canada. Because and I've said this about you guys and with you guys. At its best, the CFL, I think, where it really sort of gets into you is with these communities. And I understand it's a bigger business than that, but the people that really keep the fires burning are Turf District and the guys in Ottawa and all of them. And because it keeps the conversation going. Like, it was pretty lean out there, right, for CFL talk. Right. And the fact that you guys would continue to come together and do the stuff you did and keep the chatter going and the interest is really important. It's not to be overlooked. Yes, they can produce lots of great videos and all of that stuff. It all matters. Like, I believe it's to market and to message and all that. It's a buffet. And it's it's podcasts like you guys do, and it's all the other things and social media,
traditional radio, traditional
and tradition. Yeah, it's just a big swirling thing. And at the end of it, hopefully, you come out of it. Oh, they're playing Friday night. I should be there. It sounds like fun. These guys are fun. They have a great tailgate. I'd like to be part of that community. And that's kind of what I see out of all of this.
Well, and that's what we hope for. That's what we hope we can. We hope we're allowed to do that soon. That would be very exciting. Jaimo, where does everybody find you? Either online to interact with you, or where do they hear you every day?
Well, they can hear me on TSN 1260 in Edmonton between noon and 2, Monday through Friday, and we do a lot of CFL talk when warranted, and when it's warranted, and it's warranted a lot. And you can also at Jameson 1260 on Twitter. I don't do TikTok. I don't think that's for anyone. I don't think that's really good for anyone.
I was so waiting to see you on TikTok. Now,
yeah, I'm sure you were.
Ruined.
You can find me, and I'm, and text the show at 10-1260, and come at me, and join a long line of people that text and say you're an idiot. But that said, yeah, TSN 1260 noon to 2 Monday through Friday is where you can find me largely.
Well, now that I know that they do that, I'm just going to text there saying you're my hero to balance it out, just so that it's. I want you. Don't believe it. I'm putting a new picture on the wall. It's going to be Jaimo right there. Yeah. It'll be fantastic. Super fan. Where does everybody find you and the brand new history area?
Yeah, you bet. You can find me, as always, at 56 Sparkies. Still getting on there fairly often.
You were killing it today. Good Lord, I could not keep up at all.
Today it was all over the place. And then the history segment, so the Edmonton Football History, you can find it at EDM History, and that's HISTOREE.
Wonderful. It's like you already practiced that. Well done.
I've been doing it all day in front of the mirror.
Awesome. Fantastic. Commissioner, where does everybody find you these days? Sporadically, I understand, but still. Yeah.
Yes, I'm still there.
Okay,
just
good.
Delayed, like always. On the Twitter at Duchess Lombardi.
Perfect. And make sure everyone you are following Pay It Forward with Football. They're getting ready to do some big things soon for sure. There's lots of great shows coming out from the Canadian Football Podcast Network, and I'm sure they will have lots of opinions on the name, so check out all of the things there at cfpodnetwork.ca. And of course, make sure you check out all of the great shows on the Alberta Podcast Network. You can find that at albertapodcastnetwork.com. And then, of course, you can follow us. Oh, look, I didn't even take still doing the redux of the 200 episode. But find us at the Turf District. That's, of course, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. We'll obviously start to get a bit more active again as we get towards some type of training camp, some type of season, which we're hoping is right around the corner. It's very exciting. And, of course, we hope to be back very soon to talk more things Elks, which I love being able to say that now, and of course CFL as we get closer. And thank you to all of you that joined us on YouTube tonight, and for those of you that are listening on the audio version, I hope that this is a good way that you could kind of match back and check back things and look at it if you want on the YouTube, but you can also get the same news as we've done on the podcast all the time. So once again, as always, for Jaimo, Superfan Mike, and Commissioner Kayla, I'm Andrew. Remember, you can't catch footballs with your face, and we will absolutely talk to you very soon.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.